Good morning and good evening, everyone. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here today for this webinar. From Data Chaos to AI-Ready Enterprise, Building the Modern Data Lakehouse. My name is Vishesh and I'm going to be your host for this webinar. If you have joined us today, you're probably navigating the challenge that most organizations face. Data spread across systems, disconnected silos, and mounting pressure to make AI actually work. We are going to tackle exactly that here. So over the next 60 minutes, we'll walk through how to move from a fragmented data landscape to a modern AI-ready architecture, and why the data lakehouse is at the center of that journey. A couple of quick housekeeping notes before we begin. You can drop your questions in the chat, in the Q&A box. We'll have a Q&A at the end. And yes, this session is being recorded. Next slide, please. All right. So to provide some context on who is hosting you today, we are ACL Digital, an Alton Group company. We position ourselves as a trusted AI-led digital and system engineering partner. When we look at our collective strength with our company, Alton, the scale is truly global. We bring over 30 years of experience to the table, serving a diverse global customer base. We are powered by a global strength of over 57,000 professionals across the world. Alton is a $4 billion plus revenue company, providing the stability and resources needed for massive digital transformations. With 35 plus design and delivery centers and 11 centers of excellence, we have the local presence to support global operations, including over 10 Fortune 100 customers. Our commitment to excellence is backed by a suite of industry standard certifications, including ISO 9001, AS 9100, and TISAX for automotive security, as well as CMMI Level 3 maturity. This ensures that when we talk about fixing AI, we are doing it within a framework of world-class compliance and engineering discipline. Now, to take us through the technical strategies, I'm pleased to introduce our speakers. Next slide. We have Ramana Nagarajan, who is a seasoned data strategist, bringing nearly 2 decades of expertise in data and analytics. He specializes in end-to-end enterprise data solution encompassing design, architecture, engineering, governance, and privacy. With proven proficiency in multi-cloud delivery across Azure, AWS, and GCP, Ramana is highly focused on establishing data trust through rigorous data quality and master data management. He has successfully driven high-impact data-led outcome across a diverse range of industries, including manufacturing, healthcare, BFSI, telecom, geophysical, and retail. And on the other hand, we have Devanshi, who is a data and AI professional with expertise in designing and delivering modern data platform, analytical solutions, and AI-driven business applications. With hands-on experience across data ingestions, transformation, governance, data quality, and KPI reporting, Devanshi helps organizations build scalable, trusted, and AI-ready data ecosystems. Her expertise spans cloud-based data platforms, real-time data processing, business intelligence, and enterprise AI initiatives, enabling data-driven decision-making and operational excellence across diverse business domains. And with that, I would like to hand over the mic to Devanshi. Devanshi, over to you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much, Vishesh. So, hello everyone. Before we jump in, let me quickly walk you through today's agenda. We'll begin with the real-world boardroom discussion that highlights why so many AI initiatives struggles to deliver values despite significant investment. From there, we'll decode the most common data challenges organization faces today and then dive deeper into underlying governance and architectural gaps causing them. We'll look at the ground reality many enterprises are dealing with, discuss a practical solution approach, and then we'll walk through a phased implementation on roadmaps. Also, my colleague Ramna will also take us through a governance maturity model, monitoring frameworks, and escalation strategies that help organizations sustain trust in their data platforms. Finally, at the last, we'll demonstrate how these concepts come together in a live environment before we wrap up with the key takeaways and Q&A session. Throughout the session, we'll have a few interactive polls, so please participate and share your perspectives. With that, let's get started. So, all right, let's kick off with a scene that I'm sure many of you have either witnessed firsthand or maybe even lived through. Picture this, it's a Tuesday morning, a boardroom somewhere. The CEO walks in and opens the meeting with one question. We have invested $20 million in AI this year. We are in quarter 3. Where is the return of investment? Now, the head of AI shifts in their seat and says, we are on it, but team is spending more time on data prep than on actual AI development. The data is complicated and unreliable. And the CTO adds, we have all the data we need, but it's not ready for AI to consume. We are dealing with the data swamp, schema drift, missing semantic layers, and stale pipelines. The CEO responses. That's alarming. I need a solution now. Now, here's the thing. This is not a fictional story. This is the most common boardroom conversation happening in enterprises right now. Companies are throwing money at AI and AI is ready. The models are ready, the algorithms are ready, but the data, it's not. And that's exactly what we are here to talk about today. Not the AI hype, not model benchmarks. We are going to talk about the messy, unglamorous, absolutely critical foundation that makes or breaks your AI ambitions, your data platforms. So, the CTO mentioned a list of symptoms. Let me break them down because each of the this has a direct impact on your AI outcomes. So here, as the slide suggests, model regression and AI model failures range from structure. So first, I will start with schema chaos. Imagine your data team makes a rename to a column in production. Sounds so small, right? That rename silently breaks 3 ML pipelines. No alerts, no notification. You find out 3 weeks later when a model start predicting garbage. The small file problem, which is the second one. High frequency streaming pipelines. Think IoT sensor click streams, they generate thousands of tiny files. Over the time, your metadata scans go from seconds to 4 minutes. That's not a performance enhance. That's a make real-time AI use cases literally impossible. After that, missing semantics. This one is subtle but devastating. Different teams define revenue differently. Finance is one thing, sales is another thing, the model, AI model, it's another thing. It gets trained on one definition, evaluate against another. You get results that are technically correct but contextually meaningless. After that, we may face disconnected pipelines. Your data scientists are waiting days sometimes for ETL jobs to sync before they can even start training a model. That's your AI team sitting idle. That's a sprint velocity collapsing. After that, we do have a problem, another problem, which is the data swamp plus dual stack cost. These 3 platforms, multiple cloud environments, none of them talking to each other cleanly. Zero AI in production, and you're paying for all of this simultaneously. Here's the punchline that ties it all together. AI model failures are data failures in disguise. When an AI model produces wrong feature, it's because the training data was wrong. When a model can't reproduce its result, it's because there's no data presence. When a real-time use case fails, it's because pipeline was too slow. The AI, it's not broken. The data infrastructure underneath, it is a broken thing. Now, after this, we'll move forward with the next slide. So now that we have looked at the common challenges, I would love to understand what resonates most within the audience. Please make a moment to answer the poll on your screen. Vishesh, can you please just open the poll?
Yeah, the poll is launched.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, while you guys are voting, let me share something interesting. Across most organizations we work with, the answer isn't usually a lake of data. In fact, most companies have more data than ever before. The challenge is trust, consistency, accessibility. Teams often spend far more time finding, validating, and cleaning data than actually generating insight from it.
Vishesh, I think we are crossing around 2 minutes time, so can we okay to publish the results? Back to you, Devanshi.
Yeah, I think we got interesting results. Okay, that's actually very consistent with that we see across manufacturing, healthcare, BFSI, retail, and telecom organizations. And the good news is that these aren't isolated platforms, they are symptoms of deeper governance and architectural gaps that can be systematically addressed. And that's exactly what Ramna is going to unpack next as we move into technical deep dive. Ramna, over to you.
All right. All right. So, good evening, everyone. Again, this is from Ramana. So, we were talking about quite few jargons and daunting descriptions for each of them. But I think now it's time to go deeper and understand what is the root cause, and in specific, what is the structural root cause. Because we have seen what is at the surface, but we also need to understand the structural problems. Only then we can fix the issue indefinitely. So to start with, so now we are talking about the platform and operations governance, and then the metadata governance, so on and so forth. Let's break it down. Number one, the redundant platforms, no consolidation strategy, especially on the platform and operational governance. And it also leads to directly to your dual stack cost. And the second gap is basically on the semantics and the metadata, meaning the business glossaries, technical glossaries, and the lineages. And absence of all this unified metadata catalog, the lineage tracking is on the task. So this is what exactly causes we're missing the semantics, and it causes the schema chaos because nobody can see what the data mean if we miss this particular one. And moving on to AI and ML governance, here we see no versioning, no provenance, and no data parity controls. And this is why we need ML models can't be reproduced and the compliance fails. And the fourth one, access and security governance. This is basically the inconsistent access controls across platform layers. It could be your warehouse, it could be your lake house, or the data lake. And it could be your silver or your gold layers. And this creates both security risk and as well as the operational risk. To be precise, the data availability and data accessibility. And moving on to the next one, the data quality governance. And this is the source of the data swamp, basically, because there is no validation, there is no gatekeeping, and also no contract enforcement. Last but not the least, the organizational governance. This means there is no clear ownership of the data, and there is no clear accountability as well, which actually relates to another concept called data contracts. And this is the one that makes all the five impossible to fix because nobody owns the data and nobody knows what is the problem and what is the fix to it. So now it is another important thing we need to understand what's happening and why we are talking about this topic. Over to you, Devanshi.
Okay. So, Ramna walked us through the deep technical landscapes. Now, let's pause and just sit with the ground reality for a second. The screenshot which snippets which we have provided here are the actual ones, the real use case scenarios. The organization we work with across manufacturing, healthcare, PFSI, retail, almost every single one of them has the same story. They started building data lakes. Those data lakes become swamps. They bolted on a new platform to fix the swamps. Now they have three platforms and still no AI in production. The ground reality it is you cannot AI your way out of a data problem. Before we get into AI readiness, we have to be honest about where we actually are. And that's what the next section is all about. Moving from diagnosis to solution. Okay, Ramna. Yeah, thanks. Okay,
Thanks,
so
Devanshi.
we have diagnosed the disease. Now let's talk about the cure. The solution isn't to replace everything overnight. And to be honest, it's not even possible. It's so systematically close the governance gaps that are blocking AI delivery. Let me walk you through the frameworks. So here we have defined layer by layer. So the very first layer, it's a quality enforcement. Think of this as the immune system of your data platforms. Before any data enters your lakehouse, you run it through investigate, quality gates, bad data gates, quarantines, sent to the dead, later on, non silently absorbed into your lake. If garbage goes in, we catch it at the door, right? The layer 2, which is data contracts. This is a schema as a code. Your schema is version controlled, reviewed, enforced in CI/CD pipelines. If someone tries to push the break-in change, a column rename, or type change, or anything else, the pipeline fails before it reaches to the production. No more silent breakages 3 weeks later. So now the next layer is unified metadata catalog. This is your single source of truth. Every dataset, every column, every owner, every definition. We just centralized it. You also build a business glossary here. So revenue means the same thing whether you are in finance, sales, or an AI model. One definition, it's everywhere. Now the next layer 4, it's a column level lineage and observability. You cannot answer now because where did this data come from? What is the transformation we have applied? What is the downstream models dependent on it? And you get freshness alerts. If a data set is a stable, the catalog tells you before your model ingests it. For AI specifically, training data provenance. Your ML model are pinned to immutable version data snapshot using the ML flows. Every model knows exactly what data it was trained on. That's how you achieve reproducibility. That's how you pass compliances audits. The next step is the feature store, a single computation layer for features. The training pipeline and the inference pipeline consume the same features. No more training serving skew. No more the model worked in the lab but falls in production situation. That's what happens every time. Finally, unified access controls. No, Ramna. The last point. Yeah. Okay, so at the catalog level, role-based and attribute-based access policies enforced across all engines, column masking, PII tagging, automated. Together, these all the components take you from inconsistent, insecure, ungoverned data to consistent, auditable, and AI-ready data. Yeah, Ramna, next slide now. Okay. So now the question everywhere in this room is probably thinking, this sounds great, but how do we actually get there? Where do we have to start? So the answer is you don't boil the ocean. You go phase by phase, step by steps, and the sequence matters most. So now the phase one is the foundation. This is your non negotiable starting point. You deploy a metadata catalog, you create business glossary, you formalize data set ownership, meaning every data set has a named human being who is accountable for it. Without this foundation, everything else you build is on sand. I cannot stress this enough. Catalog first, and it's always be the first. Second, quality gates. Now you start enforcing. Schema contracts go into your CI CD pipelines. Insertion boundaries have validation checks. You set up continuous observability. Dashboards that shows you the health of your data in real time. You stop reacting to a bad data and start preventing it. Now, the third phase is AI governance. With a clean foundation, a quality enforcement in place, you can now safely plug in your AI stack. You cannot ML flow to immutable data snapshot. You spin up feature stores, access control is centralized through the catalogs. At this point, your AI team can actually do AI work, not spend 70% of their time cleaning the data. Okay, now the phase 4 is consolidation. This is where you realize the cost saving. Because money is important, you migrate to a unified lakehouse architecture. Using open formats like Apache Icebergs or Delta Lake, ACID transactions on object storage, no more small file exploration, no more dual stick cost. You run a continuous AI readiness health scorecard to track maturity over time. So, this is a 32-week journey from start to full consolidation, not months of chaos. A structured phase execution that delivers value at each milestone. Okay, let me say one more thing. Knowing what to do, it's a step one, but how do you actually get there? So, for that one, Ramna is going to walk us through the phase by phase implementation roadmap. But before that, we do have another poll. Ramna, next slide. Yeah. So, what is your most urgent next steps after?
So while the audience are polling, I just want to, recollect how this actually resonates with your day in and day out work. That is interesting, right? Obviously, everything will not go as a cakewalk. Now, of course, everyone would have experienced it. Things go wrong, and it will. So let's also talk about what are the next steps. Also wanted to add a few more thoughts. So anyone would have part of the governance committee or the governance team. Okay, it's a bit hilarious as well. If you could resonate it, now the people belong to governance team will always looked at as in they are the cops, right? They're gonna catch us for something, for the development, the design, and the access controls, security measures, so on and so forth. But ideally, you know what? The governance is not someone who enforces us to do. Basically, the governance will be initiated and will be incorporated into the respective teams, and it is the respective team's ownership, and it will resolve into the team. So they're gonna actually measure it and take it forward, because we have seen it even in the BFSI sector. Though it's not the right one, but we have experienced it. Thought of sharing this interesting one. All right, we have crossed 2 minutes. Interesting. All right, so we have 37% as defined one. It's good. We have reactive as 21%, proactive as 32%. Right. All right. Let's move on to the next one. All right. So we want to take a step back, and we need to understand what we have been going through so far. We started with some concerns, and we identified the problems. Then we understood what is the definition of the problems and the root cause of the problems, right? And we started thinking about what are the remediations to it. And apparently, if you recollect, each of the problem is related to one or the other governance part, right? And then we were also discussing how we can implement the government and what are the sequential steps and the phases. Now, having said that, okay, I think we have implemented the governance. What is the next step? Is it all about it? No, right? Because after step are very important, because it is all about monitoring and reviewing the governance model and also the maturity model, right? So the governance without operationalization is just a document. You could have it in your SharePoint, or you can store it in your Jiras or in your Confluence pages, but there is no operationalize. So what does it make real is the structured review of cadence and always on monitoring. So let's start with monitoring. So always on alerts, catch anomalies quickly. So what are we going to do next? We have to understand what are the governance KPIs. And regularly, we have to publish it. So number one, the monitoring KPIs. And out of that, what is your governance health scorecard looks like. And the next one, important one, we have to have a structured review system in place. And this will have 4 cadence. Now, if you can take a look at your right-hand side. Number 1, this is very important, which is the daily data ops triage. So here, the engineering team reviews the overnight pipeline health every morning. And even the small issue get caught here before the business users can see them. And this is very important. Why it is very important than others? Because if we skip this, and over the period of time, this will get accumulated and you're going to have a big burden ahead of you. And the next one is the weekly domain health review. So here, the data domain leads, say for an example, if it is in BFI sector, you will have the the retail banking, wholesale banking, so on and so forth. And we call them as domain owners who are the owners of their own domains. And here they review the data products and their health scores. And they will also come up with the SLA breaches and they will get flagged. And the next one is the monthly governance. Here, we're going to intimate or the governance people comes into the picture. And especially the cross-functional reviews will happen of the maturity scorecard. Are we improving? And are we in the right track? Or are we stuck anywhere? What are the bottlenecks? And all these discussions will happen based on the health scorecard. And the last one is the quarterly. And this is where our executives and C-level people will get involved if the situation gets worse. And the governance health scorecard surfaces to the leadership team. AI readiness metrics are presented alongside the business KPIs. Let's move on to the next one. And now we have the monitoring path and what is review steps. And the next one is what happens if something goes wrong? Because in spite of having the governance controls, right, it is always possible things can go wrong. For example, there will be data leaks, there will be data breaches, so on and so forth. So it is very important to understand whom to notify at what point in time and for what, right? So let's start with what is the immediate course of action. In the first 0 to 15 minutes, the things will be notified to the dataset owners. This will be always an automated alert whenever there is a data breach. And if the problem is not solved in the first 15 minutes, and the domain data leads will join the incident channel and they will provide, they will understand what's going wrong, what's happening, and what is the ETA. And if the data is still not resolved, it gets marked stale in the catalog. And the consumers are notified in this stage of the SLA breach. And what are the next steps? The data heads assess the business impact and they mobilize engineering. The domain team enters the governance remediation model at this point in time. YAML pipeline access may have been suspended and prevent to corrupt further. And if the problem is still not resolved after 24 hours, then the CTO and the AI head conduct an executive incident review and mandate a postmortem. At the next quarterly review, the board sees it, and the domain owner's performance reviews gets flagged. So the consequences ladder is what makes the governance real. When people know that unresolved data and incidents have career implications, reputational problems, and they get resolved. So we quickly wanted to have another poll, just to understand, um, what is the most urgent next step in your portfolio or in your data domain. In the meanwhile, I'm just wondering how many of you are part of the financial risk forums and the non-financial risk forums? Basically, as it go by its own name, the financial risk forum will have its financial risks and the financial impacts. On the other hand, the non-financial risk forums or NFRCs will have the reputational issues. So why we are talking about these forums is basically all of these, I mean, the failures, the problems, everything will be directly linked to either to the financial risk or to the non-financial risk. And always these forums will be conducted at the E level and the C levels.
Okay, we got the results. Okay, that's a tie between option 2 and 3. Both got 37%.
Excellent.
Excellent, very good. So, thank you for sharing your perspectives. Now, after that, let's move into live demonstration. And the demo you are about to see will help make many of these concepts much more tangible and show how governance, quality, lineage, and AI readiness work together in a real environment. So, okay. Throughout today's session, we have discussed why many AI initiatives struggle despite significant investments. We talked about data swamps, schema chaos, governance gaps, and the challenges of building trust in enterprise data. Now, I would like to bring those concepts to life through a short demonstration. We'll look at two common challenges. First, how a traditional data lake can become a data swamp, and how a modern lake house addresses that problem. And the other hand, how schema contracts help prevent the silent failures that often break analytics and AI pipelines. So, here we do have a demo one data swamp versus trusted lakehouse. This is the first demonstration connects directly back to the boardroom discussion where we have started. Remember, when the one person said that the AI team was spending more time preparing data than building AI, this is one of the reasons why. Here's we have looking at manufacturing sensor data. dataset at first glance, everything appears healthy. The data is available, the pipeline is running. But when we validate the data quality, we immediately discover that a significant portion of record contains missing or corrupted values, which here we got like 40K corrupted records. Okay. Now this is one of the reason we have to find out why. Here's we are looking at a manufacturing sensor data. At first glance, everything appears healthy. The data set is available, the pipeline is running, but when we validate the data quality, we immediately discovers that the significant portion of records contains missing or corrupted values. Notice the numbers of invalid records. Now imagine training a predictive maintenance model using this dataset. The model does not know which records are trustworthy and which are not. It simply learns from whatever data it receives. Um, Next slide. Yeah. So before we had that no asset properties, just the packet one, and after that problem, we got that no error, no alerts. The pipeline accepted the corruption silently. This is a data swamp, not a metaphor. Oh. This is why governance and reliability cannot be treated as optional features. Now, let's run the exact same scenario using modern lakehouse architecture powered by Apache Icebergs. So, here in Icebergs, we can see that writer 1 append 5,000 rows committed clearly, writer 2 3,000 rows, and we got our row count which is exactly correct. And here we also get there is no data loss. Same workload, same concurrent writers, same business process. But this time every transaction handled correctly. Nothing is lost, nothing is corrupted, everything is committed automatically. One of the biggest advantage of the modern lakehouse is visibility. Every transaction is recorded. We know exactly what changed, when it changed, and who made the change. This level of transparency is critical for governance, compliance, and AI trust. Next is okay. That's the snapshot of rigid models trained on, and we got our result, which is solved. We got zero corruption, all full audit trail. And now we do have a part two, which is schema contract enforcement. Let's move. Okay. Before contracts, here's what we are looking at a churn prediction feature pipeline. One of the most important fields is days since purchase. Next slide. Yeah. Here we can see that the churn rate for these days are 12 and different one. After that, the column renamed upstream. Days since purchase, it's going too fast. Okay. Now, when we run the command, after that running one model, we got created a SQL table and the table created completely successfully. We got zero error and skip it zero, but we have passed this one statement. So here we can see that how governance changes the outcome. Instead of relying on assumptions, we have defining clear expectation for the data. We got the results for days since purchase, which has the null values. So before, our problem was the churn model trains on its null signal values. No warning, nothing at all. After the YML file changes, we got the fix for all of these records. And what we have changed? We have changed in our config file based on the column names. So that's the change. The same column renamed, same source changed. And after that, when we run it again, we got the exact correct result. So that's how we deploy this one. And the schema trip detected, and we got the response like column missing from sources, and we found out the root cause. After solving it, we got zero churn loss and the perfect result. Now, so this two demonstration bring us back to the central message of today's webinar, which is AI success depends on data trust. Data trust depends on data governance, and governance must be embedded directly into the platform. Throughout the quality controls, metadata management, lineage, auditability, and data contracts. When the data become trusted, AI becomes trusted as well. And that's how organization move from data chaos to an AI ready enterprises. Okay, I think we are
Yeah,
good.
that's pretty much for the demo today.
Yeah.
We'll go back to our question answer session, but before that, we just wanted to, talk about few takeaways from this webinar.
Uh, can you present the slides?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so throughout today's session, we have talked about data swamps, schema drifts, governance gaps, lineage, catalogs, lakehouse, and AI readiness. But if there's one theme that connects everything we have discussed today, it's the trust. So most organizations don't struggle with AI because have lack of the data. In fact, they often have more data than ever before. The challenge is that they can't consistently trust it. They can't always answer where it came from, how it changed, who owns it, or whether it is fit for the decision they are about to make or not. And when trust is missing, everything slows down. Data teams spend their time validating instead of innovating. AI team is spending their time cleaning instead of building. Business teams spend their time questioning reports instead of acting on insights. What we have seen across industries is that organizations creating real business values from AI are not necessarily the ones which is the largest AI budgets or the most sophisticated models. They are the ones that invested first in building trusted data foundation, a foundation where quality is enforced automatically, where business defines are consistent, where lineage is visible, where governance is embedded into platform instead of added later as an afterthought. And that's why today's discussion wasn't really about technology. It was about confidence. Confidence that your data is accurate. Confidence that your decisions are based on trusted information. And confidence that AI outcomes can be explained, reproduced, and scaled. If you think back to the boardroom conversation, we started with the beginning of the session. The CEO wasn't really asking for another AI model. What they were asking for was business value. And business value comes where trusted data, governance, and AI work together as a single system. So, if you are wondering what your next step should be after today, my suggestion is simple. Don't start by asking what AI model you should build next. Start by asking whether your data foundation is ready to support the AI ambition you already have. Because when data becomes trusted, AI becomes trusted too. And when AI becomes trusted, it becomes a true business capability rather than just another pilot project. Okay. With that, we do have our Q&A session. We appreciate all of your questions, poll response, engagement throughout the session. And Ramna and I would now happy to open the floor for the questions.
Okay, I guess we have one question from the name Kashyapi. How does a feature store actually stop training serving skew? Kashyapi, Devanshi looks like it's more on the AI side. Would you like to take it up?
Uh, Sorry, can you repeat that question again?
Okay, let me read it out again. How does a feature store actually stop training serving skew? Okay, probably I can go. Right, we'll take a step back. When do you think the skew happens? Okay, the skew happens when the code computing a feature during the training differs slightly from the code computing at the interference. A different null handling rule, a different date filter, a feature store becomes the single computational layer. So it computes the feature once, materializes it, and serves the value to both training and the production. So one definition is one place it's computed instead of two engineers maintaining. Hope this answers, Kashyapi.
I have another question here. Iceberg versus Delta Lake. Does it actually matter which one we pick? Devanshi, would you like to answer it?
Yeah, iceberg versus the delta lake. Yeah, okay. So both solves the ACID transaction, schema evaluation, and time travel the same basic way. But a transaction log over plain packet files, the real difference is in ecosystem fit. And when we talk about the data lake, it integrates most deeply if you are already all in on Databricks side. Now, when it comes to the iceberg, it's engine agnostic by design, and it works on the Spark, Flink, Snowflake, all read it natively. But when we talk about the enterprise level solution, so from these platforms, we can lean on the iceberg specifically because it will avoid creating tomorrow's dual stack platforms problems.
All right.
Okay.
We can take one
We
more
have a
question.
question here.
Yeah.
We have a question here from Lakshmi. What are the common pitfalls organizations face when migrating from a traditional siloed data warehouse or a lakehouse architecture to a unified data lakehouse, and how can these be mitigated during transition? Anyone?
Great question. I can answer this question. So, firstly, great question. And one of the biggest pitfall is assuming that moving to a data lakehouse is just a technology migration. But in reality, if you move data without addressing governance, quality, ownership, metadata, you risk creating the same data silos and data swamps in a new platform. Another common challenge is attempting a big bang migration, which increase the risk and disruption. The most successful organization take a phased approach, like step by step, starting with a metadata catalog, establishing data quality controls, the governance, the RBAC, everything, and then migrate workloads incrementally. That way, they build a trusted foundation while continuing to deliver business values throughout the transition. I hope I answered your question, Lakshmi.
Thanks for that, Devanshi. Just to add on it, we have two aspects for this question. So number one is the technical aspect, and number two is the governance aspect. So from the technical aspect, we need to understand how we can migrate and what we need to migrate and where to store data. We have to make this very clear because of number one, the data retention risk, and number two, the cost. So we need to understand what's our service level agreements with the partners, with the downstream consumers, and also with the in-house consumers. And based on that, we have to archive the data, push it into the cold storage, and we have to do all these housekeepings. And we should always be remembered that if you want the data from cold storage, it is always costlier. So before we do that, we have to be absolutely sure, what is our data requirements and what is our service level agreements. That's number one. And second thing, we'll start with the critical data elements and the master data elements and where it sits. To give you an example, right? We are working for the IoT-based manufacturing companies, and we are getting data. And when we talk about these devices, equipment, so on and so forth, it is not just telemetry data, which is basically IoT, but we also have the other data which are related to it. Okay, so we need to understand, um, what is required as an urgent phase one and what could be taken a backseat. So accordingly, we have to design our pipeline MVPs and it's in the next level phases.
All right. Thank you, Devanshi and Ravana. This was an incredibly insightful session. And thank you both for sharing your expertise and for tackling those questions so thoroughly. And a huge thanks to our audience joining us from USA, India, and around the world. We appreciate you spending this part of your day with us. Your questions were excellent, and if we didn't get your specific question, or if you'd like to give a deeper dive into how ACL Digital can help, please reach out to us. You can visit acldigital.com to explore our centers of excellence and keep an eye on your inbox. We'll be sending the full recording of today's session within the next 24 to 48 hours. On behalf of ACL Digital and Alton Group, thank you again for being here. We look forward to seeing you at our next webinar. Have a wonderful day ahead or a great evening ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.